You know how they say it's not about the destination, it's about the journey? Not in this case. Hey, what's up you guys? It's Avery and welcome back to the channel. Glad you made it. Today I'm going to be talking about 5 books that have great endings. But don't worry, I will not be spoiling any of these books. Can you imagine if that was the video? I was like, I love these 5 books. Here's how each one of them ends. I won't be doing that because I want you to read them because I think they're worth it. You know, sometimes you're reading a book and you're like, okay, this is like a 3 or 4 star book. But then you get to the end and you're like, and it just turns it into a 5 star because either there's a twist or the conflict is resolved in a really great way, or just something great happens with the characters at the end of the book and it really makes the entire book. Those are the 5 books that I chose for this video. But also I know a lot of people don't like to hear when they're given a new book, oh my gosh, it has a crazy twist ending. Because then the entire book you're reading it and you're like waiting for the twist and you know it's gonna happen, so it's not even a twist. So that's also not really like what I'm saying with these all being great endings. Not that they have like these crazy twists, but that the conflict is just resolved in a really, really good way. You know how they say it's not about the destination, it's about the journey? Not in this case. So that's pretty much it. Let's go ahead and jump into it. The first book I'm going to start with is Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. So if you are on the internet at all these days, you will probably have heard of this book. It is like one of the most popular books right now. My grandma just read it. She loved it. Like everyone knows about this book. And there's also a movie adaptation that just came out, which I also saw and also really loved. But this book follows a girl named Kaya who grows up in this marsh of North Carolina by herself. Ever since she was a young child, she has had to fend for herself and basically just survive. And it follows her childhood up into her being in her 20s. It follows her relationships with 2 men in her life, but one day one of those men turns up dead and everybody thinks that Kaya has murdered him. It's about the prejudice that she faces from the people in the town for being different, and even though she was abandoned as a child and wasn't given really any real chance to succeed, she's able to make a life for herself, but this prejudice comes back to get her once again when everyone suspects her of murdering one of these men. It's a really great book. It has really great descriptions of the environment that she's in, as well as a good love story, and you just really come to care about Kaya a lot. And pretty much everyone who's read it is like, oh my gosh, that ending, I wasn't expecting it, or I was expecting it, but I was still loved it. So it's a really great book, and the ending is super fun. It made me drop my mouth open when I read it. Next up, we have The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides, and I talk about this book on my channel a lot. I like to recommend this book to people a lot, people who don't read a lot, because I feel like it's a really good one for people who aren't big readers because it's very intriguing and it will really draw you into the story and make you want to know what's going on. But it is about a man named Theo who is a psychologist, a criminal psychologist, and he becomes really obsessed with this case about this woman named Alicia who shot her husband in the head like multiple times and then never spoke another word. And so Theo is intrigued and he gets a job working at the psychiatric unit that she is being kept in, and it's about figuring out why she killed her husband, and it's about Theo kind of putting all the pieces together. And it's a really good book. The ending is insane and it's such a cool ending. I always say that like this ending makes the book really good. The book is good by itself. It was probably maybe like 4 stars from me, but then the ending just makes it 5 stars for sure. And I think most people would probably agree with that also. Okay, next up we have a romance, and this is The Longest Ride by Nicholas Sparks. I read this book a long time ago. Like it's been a hot minute. And I've also seen the movie. I think the movie's really good too, but I read the book first. It was before the movie had even come out, I believe. Also, this is such a side note, but can we talk about how Nicholas Sparks is the entire back cover? I love that for him. But this follows a man named Ira. He's like 90 years old. He gets in a car crash and he's kind of struggling to hold on to life, and he starts remembering his marriage with his wife Ruth, and it takes you through their love story. The people who find Ira when he gets into this car crash are Sophia and Luke, and Sophia is a girl about to graduate from college, and Luke is a bull rider, and they are starting a romance, but things are kind of keeping them apart and keeping them from being able to be together. And Sophia begins this friendship with Ira and learning about his marriage and his life. So it deals with like the problems that Sophia and Luke are facing, as well as getting a look at Ira's life. And so you just come to love both of the couples, and in the end there's a really great way in which these two couples, one from the past and one from the present, like come together and their stories overlap, and it's insane. Like when I read the like last few chapters of this book, or whenever like the main ending happens, I was shook. I was like, that is one of the best endings I've ever read. I thought it was literally the best ending I've ever read, and it's one of the reasons I decided to make this video, is because this one was so good. So if you've seen the movie, then you know how it ends. But if you haven't seen the movie, I would definitely encourage you to read this book, because going into it, you'll just be so shook and so excited at this ending. And so it's really great, really well done. It's been a long time since I read the story, but all I remember is the ending being like. Next up, we have Beautiful World, Where Are You by Sally Rooney. So I read this book recently and I really enjoyed it. I gave it 5 stars. I was worried about this book because of the other endings of Sally Rooney's novels. I have like not really been a big fan of the way that those 2 books ended, but Beautiful World, Where Are You had a really good ending, and so it made me happy because I was so worried reading the entire book. I was like, how is this gonna end? How is this gonna end? Is it gonna end the way I want it to? Or if not, is it still gonna be satisfying? And it was satisfying. So this book follows 2 best friends, Alice and Eileen, and it's about their friendship together, but also it's about their relationships with 2 other men in their lives. And you go back and forth between Eileen and Alice's perspectives, and eventually all 4 of these people meet and they interact, but it's just really a story about relationships and about confusing relationships. It's also just a really nice story about friendship and about love. That's, I think, what I really liked about it too, is there was a lot of really good quotable moments. Just quotes about like love and about just being a good person and making life fulfilling. And so if you've read any of the other Sally Rooney's and you didn't like the endings and you're like worried that you're not gonna like this book because of the ending, I would say don't worry about it. I personally liked the ending. I mean, things could be different. You might not like it just because I liked it, but I will say overall I think it was a really good ending and it did the characters justice, which is always important to me. I hate when we feel like characters are just left up in the air. So that's a banger as well. And then last up, I'm going to be recommending It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. So this book, I mean, a lot of people have heard about. It's super popular online everywhere, but this book follows a woman named Lily as she gets into a relationship with this man named Ryle. While she is in this new relationship, she can't help but think about Atlas, a boy from her youth who was her first love, and when she runs into Atlas again with her new boyfriend Ryle, it begins to cause problems. But I will say that this sounds like a classic love triangle story. That's not what it is. This book is actually way more deep and complex than that. It does involve abusive relationships, so if that is something that, you know, you're not comfortable reading about, then I would definitely maybe pass it up. Check out any content warnings for it just to make sure that you would feel comfortable reading it. A lot of it throughout the book just breaks your heart and you just don't know what's going to happen at the end, and I was like on the edge of my seat the entire time wanting to know what Lily was going to do and how things were going to work out. And I will say that the ending was so good. This is also a tearjerker. The ending had me crying. It's like the last sentence of this book is so good that as soon as I read the last sentence, I was like instant tears. So even though Colleen Hoover is like a romance writer, this book isn't really about romance. It starts off romancy, but it really deals with more issues than that, and it deals with like domestic violence. I just thought it was really well done, and so I really enjoyed it, and the ending is definitely worth it. Okay, you guys, that is it for my 5 books I'm recommending that all have great endings. I really think that you should read all of these. They're all great books, and I love a book with a great solid ending. You know, there's nothing worse than reading a book and really enjoying it, and then you get to the end and you're like, what? Like, that's it? So these books will not do that to you. They will leave you satisfied, even if it's in a way that you might not have expected. Thanks for watching this video. I hope that you enjoyed. Hope you did. If you did, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and comment down below a book that you love that has a great ending, but no spoilers. Also subscribe if you want to see more videos from me in the future. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you in my next video.